I have been here in Portland for 12 years with InFocus Corporation. Some of you have asked what that is on the table. That is, it's really our smallest projector. It's a 1100 lumens. It weighs 1.5 pounds, a little over 1.5 pounds. And I'm doing this wirelessly today because you just don't want to have a lot of cables on the floors if you don't have to. And so we'll see how that works. I'm not the technical guy at the company.
John, if you could speak up, it'd be better for the people back here.
You can't hear me back there?
Just a little louder.
Okay, I'll bang them together. I heard that in the introduction that I was a great speaker. I don't think so. But I will tell you, Steve Halliday is coming up next. He preaches at our church now and then, but he writes books, and he is, without a doubt, the greatest speaker I've heard. And I've heard a lot of great speakers in my life. So you don't want to miss that one the next time it's here. What I'm going to do is take you through a piece of work. I'm with the AEA. If you don't know what it is, it's an association of a little over 3,000 high technology companies from IBM, Intel, all the way down to smaller companies. And I'm the vice chair of that organization, and we commissioned a lot of research on this whole offshoring and outsourcing dilemma that we face in this country and elsewhere. And what I'm going to do is go over what did we find on that. For those of you from Intel, Craig Barrett was here in town a couple days ago. We had breakfast with him, and he spoke on the same topic almost the same way that I'm going to take you through it. It's a topic that is really bothering a lot of people in a lot of ways. Now this whole topic is one where there is a lot of anxiety and there's a lot of demagoguery, and by that I mean it ranges from, oh my gosh, there's a lot of people not in work, to someone like a gentleman running for the presidency who was saying only Benedict Arnold would send jobs overseas. And so there's a lot of that going on. There is not a lot of understanding on the background of this, and that's what we're going to talk about today. But there sure are a lot of forces or trends that are affecting commerce and affecting American companies, and we'll talk a little bit about that. The key thing is that we have to figure out what are we going to do about it to better compete in America, to create a higher paying jobs, and also create a better style of life. And so if jobs are going to move around the world, how do we come out of this thing so that there is in fact a better life for all of us here? The situation is the whole world has changed in the last decade. In the 50s and 60s, America was the only country that had the muscle for building products. Everything else was kind of destroyed. In the 70s, Taiwan and South Korea began to come out of this and really get competitive, and Japan. But it was kind of friendly competition, pretty much our model. But later in the 80s and the 90s, that all changed. You now have India and China, and you have a whole host of things that are changing. You have a workforce that changed in the 90s, overnight. You had, and it's about 1/3 of the population of the world. If you have China entering the world market, you have India entering the world market, taking down all the barriers, both of them, and you have the Eastern Bloc. And the Eastern Bloc is sitting there in Europe saying, get out of the way, old guys, we're coming in. And they have tremendous education, but an infrastructure that's not quite there. So we have that going for us. That's the change. Our science and math, primarily K through 12, is not what it should be. That's another one of the part of the situation. We are the place where many of our offshore countries like to come. And we'll talk more about that. And we're not alone in this offshoring, and I'll show you some of the statistics on that. So these whole changing world demographics will have a huge impact on what's really going on and where the jobs are going. One of the elements is this internet and lower cost communications, because that means you can deal a phone call away, and you can be working somewhere else and not moving from where you live. And that's changed the world. There's 1 billion nodes on that internet today, 1 billion. And it's growing and growing and growing. And then the cost structure of the American companies is a problem for a number of reasons. I'll talk more about that later. And that's a situation that we have to deal with in this. The reality is that in this intense international competitive environment, many companies are going to have to offshore some of the jobs if they're going to remain competitive as a company. And the downside, if they don't, is that company may not be viable, and then a whole lot of jobs are lost. And that's the reality of what's going on out there today. And we just need to look at it that way and say, okay, what are we going to do about that? Now I'm going to go through a series of issues and then facts backing up those issues and some charts on what this thing's about. The first thing is the true magnitude of offshore outsourcing is unknown. But some of the workers are being hurt, particularly in manufacturing. And that's the thing that I pray about, is how do we help these people who, because of this offshoring and manufacturing, are out of work today? And how do we, what can we do to help them get back into the mainstream and enjoy the lifestyle that they want? Now, having said that, most of it is unknown, there's very few statistics on offshoring. The Bureau of Labor Statistics hasn't done it. Most of that data is anecdotal or projections. Forrester is the one people like to quote because it's 3.3 million jobs in service, not manufacturing, are going to be moving off by 2015. And the Bureau of Labor Statistics took a cut at that at the high point of the dot-com bubble. You know, and so in 2000, when everything was going north, they said, well, if this continues, then there'll be that many. Now, that's been revised downward, but I put that in because that's a statistic you see. And the other thing is that despite job loss, this is not a jobless recovery, and the government says, the same Bureau of Labor said, that there will be some jobs that will continue to grow. Looking at job loss, this is really a high-tech look at this, and you can map other industries into it, but you can see that in the 2001-2, there was 539,000 jobs lost, most of it in manufacturing. And in 2000, yes?
Is this for domestic United States?
This is just U.S. right here.
Versus the cut in Oregon?
This is really just U.S. I did not cut Oregon. There are statistics in Oregon. We have the highest unemployment in the state, and high-tech is a pretty big piece of that. Interestingly, in Oregon, it is not so much the American companies that took the jobs out, but Fujitsu closed down, Epson closed down, other semiconductor from Asians closed down, and they'll take 800 people out at a time and move back to their own countries. And that's really what's happened out here. But you can see that in 2002, 2003, that is waning. However, manufacturing is the hardest hit in that piece. So, on the other hand, the Bureau of Labor Statistics and everybody that looks to where the job growth will be are saying that, hey, we're going to need more programmers, we're going to need more systems analysts, and we're going to need more double E's over the next few years also. So we have job growth to tie back to that job loss. Next issue. Job loss over the last 3 years is less from offshore outsourcing than from a weak international and domestic economy and productivity improvements. Companies have to drive productivity to survive in this world market. You know, that's the fact. The offshoring, we think, is the least important variable in the decline of these high-tech jobs. The decline of the world economy, the end of the high-tech bubble, the productivity increase has been the biggest factor. In 95 to 2000, for example, U.S. productivity grew at 2.5% per annum. In 2002 2003, it grew at 4%. So you're seeing productivity really stepping up right now, and that's an important thing. And the other fact that we don't focus on is that the 20 largest economies really are in this same job loss situation, and let's take a look at some of that. If you look at between 95 and 2002, China lost 15 million manufacturing jobs. China. And the United States lost just under 2 million, Russia 2 million, Japan 2.3, and on. So this is not a local problem. This is really caused by the increase in productivity and companies not manufacturing the way they used to manufacture. And so these are jobs that are lost, and it's a worldwide problem. If you go look at the high-tech bubble, and these are exports, and by the way, the high-tech industry is the largest single exporter in this country. And it's back to $171 billion of exports. 60% of all high-tech companies get more than 60% of their revenue offshore. And so we're an industry that sells worldwide and exports tremendously. Interesting fact on jobs, for every $1 billion of export, there's 5,000 jobs. So you can see what happened between 2000 and 2002 and 2003. When the exports come down, those jobs are not here. And so this whole thing about a worldwide recession was a huge impact on this last period of time. The other thing that's going on, there's changes in the marketplace. A lot more competitive challenges. I've talked about the people entering the workforce from around the world all at the same time saying, I want a slice of this economy. The other thing that's happening to us is they're catching up on our education skills. And the fact you're all here to continue your own learning or listening to people who might know something is very encouraging, by the way, to me. Our math and science and engineering is not improving, and I'll show you some of that. Other countries are surpassing us in that. Very, very key thing. The internet and telecommunications allow workers throughout the world to be mobile without moving. You know that problem. And in a global marketplace, if we're in an industry, and whatever industry, and you're selling around the world, you kind of have to go around the world and be around the world. You can't just depend on them when you do something here and having it go all around the world. So you have to be present in the markets you're selling in. Let's talk about bachelor's degrees in engineering, science, math, whatever. China is kicking out 195,000 degrees a year now. That's up 37% from 95, okay? The United States is at 61,000. That's down from the 73,000 that used to be. That's not the trend you want to have, and I know not all of you are high tech, but this is a major dilemma for this country in that they are putting out degrees in this area and doing a very good job, and we're kind of declining in this. And this whole high-tech industry and many of the industries depend on technology to grow. Let's talk about graduate schools. When you go get a master's degree in engineering, math, or science, 40% of the people who are getting those degrees are foreign. 40%. Now that says that, hey, we do have an awfully good high education system. That if you want, you want to augment your education and you're from another country, probably here is the best place to go for a lot of reasons. And that is an important thing. So you begin to see that 40% of the MBA, of the master's classes are foreign. And when you get to the PhD, it's 60% are foreign. 60%. And that says they're coming here to learn something that they don't think they can get there. There is no question that the schools in India or the schools in China are more than equal to our schools in science, math, and engineering, more than equal. It's what are they getting here? And one of the things they get here is entrepreneurship, innovation. You know, America has always fostered the products and brought them out. And Asians tend to really focus and get the cost out and not commoditize them, but really get them growing. And they're saying, if we're bright, we want to do the other. And they're coming here to find out, is there a secret sauce in America, or are you all a bunch of mavericks that want to go out and form your own and do something? And so they're doing that. Anyway, 60%. Now when you look at math and these same scores for our K through 12, in 4th grade, we're at about a 75%. We're above 75%. In the 8th grade, we're right in the middle. By 12th grade, we're in the bottom 10%. And so if you just take the snapshot and look at those countries, we're number 19 in math and number 18 in science. That's a lot of countries ahead of the United States, which was known for education. And that is a key problem. And that's something you all need to get involved in with your schools and start to foster more and more, not just money, but get in there and work with the school systems, because inexorably your quality of life and standard of living will be based on your educational capability to compete in a world market. And so we're not worried about us here today, but you ought to be worried about your grandchildren's children if we don't get this turned around. I feel very strongly about that. There are going to be jobs offshored, and this is a study done, I think it was done in England, about where are these jobs that are going to go to India for software and really cerebral process, not putting tops on bottoms in manufacturing, and why. Mellon did a study of quality of software companies. 57% of those companies that got their certificate were in India and not here. And so they are going over. That's an estimate. I don't know that that's going to happen, but what that chart shows is that it's not just from America, it's from Europe, it's from Japan, moving into software jobs in India. To me, this is an alarming thing. War isn't really a very favored topic these days, but the precision of combat today that is necessary really is a combination of software and of hardware. But it's the software and the brain stuff that drives it. Okay? If we're offloading that type of stuff, that doesn't bode well. And so these are the things that I worry about, not the fact right now that some of the lower jobs in software are going. Let me turn it around now and say that, hey, there's inshoring. 6.4 million jobs in America today are here because companies that sell here need to be here. And whether it's the car companies or whatever, and you have the list right there. So there's a lot of work that if you were over there, you would call that outshoring. And so there's a give and take in this, as there has been forever in this offshoring. McKinsey has done a lot of work on this. Is this beneficial? You know, if it's inexorable, is it beneficial? And statistically, they're saying, yes, for every dollar you send over there offshoring, $1.15 comes back here in other forms. And so overall, in the long period, this is in fact beneficial for us in America. And I'm not going to quarrel with McKinsey on that, and nor am I a guy that says if this is beneficial, how come it doesn't feel good? Which is where I am on this. But statistically, when you go analyze it like they did in this piece of work, there is some quid pro quo for the jobs that we do send over there. There's another group, and you know, it's election year, and so the politicians are arguing about this. Protectionism is a really dicey trail. First of all, we can't protect America from commerce from around the world. Our people like to buy from around the world, and so there is no protecting, there is only competing. And so protectionism, as we learned when we were going to protect the steel industry this year, is something that you do that, and then the Eastern bloc or the European bloc says, tell you what, we're going to charge you for that. And so you're going to get stifled. If we're the largest exporter in high tech, it's 170 billion now, growing back again. That's what they're going to attack. And so protectionism can't be. It's not a good thing. Interesting, the reason we commissioned this piece of work, and the board of directors of AEA had this work done and worked to make sure it was done, was that we deal with the Congress of the United States, we deal with the Senate, we deal with the administration, and try to help them understand what this is so it doesn't get all frothed up and they do something wrong. It's one of those do no harm things. And when you get all through and you look at Congress, 40% of our United States congressmen don't even have a passport. Now, that has to tell you that you're probably not dealing with a full deck back there on what is protectionism, because they're listening to the constituency back home and they're saying, well, stop it. We'll stop it at the border. Anyway, I told you about the 5,000 people for $1 billion. So what does it all mean? The high-tech bubble is what burst and cost us dearly. The decline in exports led to an impact on job creation. I mean, if you're not selling it, it's pretty hard to have the people. There's a lot of loss in manufacturing, but it's around the globe. The global competition is awesome now. I mean, it is not going to subside. Education in other countries, India and China particularly, have caught up to our system and are going by. U.S. citizens benefit from insourcing to the tune of 6.4 million jobs now, and many Americans are being hurt by job loss. No matter what we say about this, no matter what the facts say, many are being hurt, and that's the problem you have, and that's the group you pray for. How do we get this back going? And I'm going to tell you now what we're recommending and pushing. Interestingly enough, when Craig Barrett, who is one of the premier, preeminent CEOs in the world, and certainly in high tech, hit 4 of these points himself yesterday or 2 days ago. I was very happy to hear that I'm probably right, that means. This is the one he didn't hit that I think is important. Today we have a jobs training, retraining program, but it's only for manufacturing. And so you can retrain manufacturing, but that's not just the issue. The issue is, what are we doing about software? So we're telling, and what we're saying very loudly back there in the Hill, is get the government, the state, the federal, get the educators, get the unions, and convene a national symposium on training and figure out how we're going to do that, and in fact, harness the education system. And but the universities have a hard time dealing with, you know, I'm a brain guy and you want me to do what? But the community colleges absolutely can help with this tremendously, and the companies can also. Very, very key thing. Let's move that forward into the retraining. This K through 12 is failing. Make no mistake. I know we argue a lot about it out here, and we have a revenue system in this state that does not take care of education, but we have to do that, and if we don't, it's going to be what I said, and that is societies seek the level that their education allows them. And if you have these competitive societies really booming where we used to be, or where we are now, it doesn't bode well, and we need to get it fixed. And we're saying the business needs to support it. little InFocus, well, Intel and InFocus give a number of scholarships every year in this arena to the brightest high school kids around. And 4-year scholarship to engineering or math or science. There's an international science fair here. How many of you know about that? That is the biggest thing to hit this town, I can't tell you. And we've certainly supported that as a company, but I've been out there touring through there, and you would be amazed at what these 9th and 10th graders are working on, and there's 1,300 of them. There's 14 Nobel laureates out here as judges. There's 1,000 other judges. This is a tremendous event, and it'll help this state think more about that than anything else. But business has to help and teach. My engineers go out and lecture, and by the way, they love it. They love it, and the kids love to have them in the thing. So we need to help with curriculum, we need to help with teaching, we need to help with a lot of things to get this going back the way we need to. R&D, in the 60s, we gave money as a country for R&D, and it brought us tremendous things, semiconductors, computers, high-end computers. There's a lot of projects that are R&D money. This year, the government spent $5 billion on R&D. Intel spent $5 billion. IBM spent $6 billion. HP spent about $5 billion. We spend a huge percent of our revenue compared to what, we don't have all the money in the world, but we do. And the government spent $5 billion. And most of that was in not physical science. Physical science are the widgets, gadgets, and gadgets that drive this productivity engine. It doesn't mean that the money they spent in the sciences of taking care of people is wrong. It means we need to pick it up a beat elsewhere, and we really need to do that, and we need to have the R&D credit in. Our competitive countries are doing that straight away. They're really putting the money into that because they want to do it. There's another simple thing. We educate, like I said, 40% at the master's level, 60% at the PhD level, and then we make sure they can't work here. And they have to go home. And we're saying, for gosh sakes, if they get that degree, give them a green card now, let them work here. And as they work, these are the bright guys, as they work here, they'll create more jobs here, and we'll do more things here. And there's a lot of froth on that one too, and demagoguery, and so I don't know how that will be received or is being received. Broadband, interesting. We've been talking about this at the national level for some time, and it's almost a do no harm thing, so there's no action at all. But while we're not acting here, South Korea, Japan, China will have it all done in no time, and we're running at about 7 per 100 in America using broadband today, so you can get all this data that's out there in that billion node net. And South Korea has 21 going north fast. They don't know what slow is, and that's going on. And then support the open markets. We're telling Congress and everybody who listens that don't even think about protectionism. A, it doesn't work. B, we can't win that battle. We cannot win the protectionism battle. And then finally, reduce the cost. We're a litigious society. There are guys making millions and tens of millions of dollars suing companies for every mistake they make, for the shareholders who never get the money. The lawyers get the money. That's one thing. Healthcare cost is off the charts. And we're competing with countries that don't have that problem. And there's one example here. In Canada, it's $50 a month per employee, and here it's $5.52 in a comparative type company. That's a big dilemma where if we're going to be competing, we really have to get the cost down for American companies. We're not looking for a tin cup here. We're saying you better be working on this. Somebody better be working on this thing. Finally, there is another thing that some of you might remember. There's a couple gray hairs out here. I can remember the 80s, and when Japan was going to take over the world, when their GDP by 2002 would be bigger than America. When a guy named Morito, who was the chairman of Sony, wrote a book and called all of us stupid or inept or both. And they were really marching. And protectionism was being forced on the hands of the Congress and on companies. We were to adopt Japanese standards of manufacturing and everything else. None of us did. And Congress didn't. And it didn't work for them. And so I guess what I'm saying is that this dilemma before us in offshoring is going to happen. We have some things we can do to be competitive, but there is no reason to believe that this thing, we're not going to come out of this the way we want to come out of this thing. So that's really all I had to say on this. I'd certainly be happy to take questions on it. Yes?
Promoting national health care at this point. You're talking about health.
I'm not promoting national health care. I'm not, it's not anything I've studied or looked at. I know there are a lot of people who do. I'm saying that our healthcare system is costing companies too much, and the companies are passing more and more on to people. And are we getting what we need on this, or does it need to really be reshaped and redone? And I believe that.
You don't know about reshaping.
No, I'm having a hard time running a company.
Okay, I totally agree with you as far as the emphasis on math and science is poor, and we aren't teaching very well. But I think that it's important to remember that most of the engineering also benefits from music and the arts and things like that. I think the education system as a whole
Yes.
has to be brought up, and to just emphasize the sciences and math is a mistake. It's because we benefit from the English and the arts.
I totally agree with you on that. We did this piece of work to help 3,000 high-tech companies and focused on that. But it's clear that it's a much deeper problem than that. And our system doesn't seem to be serving us well, and we need to come to grips with how we change it.
The fact in the high tech that we're losing the job here and the jobs goes to India or China. I mean, we can also look at it other ways, not saying that we don't have enough technical people. How about if you say companies are greedier because it's much cheaper to hire somebody in China and India, and that's really the real motives.
I don't.
How do you look at that? How much is it true?
I don't believe at all it has to do with companies being greedy. I believe you have to look at your cost structure, and cost is much more than labor cost. Cost is cost of components and labor. And for example, in my company, only 1% of the sell price of a product is labor. You wouldn't move anything for 1%. You just wouldn't do it. But if the components are made there and your engineers are designing here for components made here to make it, then you aren't going to be competitive. So it's not a greed thing at all. It's a assessment of what does it take so I can keep this company going and compete. And if I don't, and all these other things are so that we can compete in the future. Education, K through 12, whatever, is so we can compete in the future. Right now it's moving around, but it's moved everywhere. Japan was a place we used to go. That moved to Singapore. Now it's in Malaysia. And France, Germany, the same. You have to go where you can be productive. And if you sell 60 or more % of your goods around the world, you have to go where you're selling. You can't just send. It doesn't work.
John, the low numbers of American bachelor's and graduate degrees in engineering, is that because American students aren't qualifying or aren't applying, or what's the reason?
Well, we looked at that, and part of it is it's just hard. and so they're not taking the easier way. And part of it is, I'm an engineering business type guy. I was absolutely committed to my children having that background in math and science and engineering, no matter what they did. I failed. I mean, my wife was told, hey, you don't have to take math, take philosophy. It's the same thing. And my kids didn't take math, didn't do the things I think they ought to do, and so I'm one of the problems. But it's...
So they're not qualified. They're not graduating from high school qualified.
You'd be surprised how many are bright. I know they're trying to get the hook here. How many of these bright kids are? We do this testing to give scholarships, and for InFocus, it's I want a female, a minority, and a Caucasian, because they're all bright. And then I'll give them a 4-year scholarship. I'll mentor them in the summer, and I'll have a job for them in the summer also. And so I now have 12 of those rolling on. It's pretty expensive, but there is an ample number to come. It's that the scholarship is only if they get a math, science, or computer science degree or engineering. And so we're finding that there's a huge amount, and they're just not stepping up to it. We have to make it a better thing. You're trying to get me out of here?
No, just one last question maybe. What do you think would be the role of faith-based organizations in improving the situation?
I said that I pray for these things, and I pray for, as we pull this together, do we have the wisdom? As we look at this worldwide situation, where's the pony? How did we do this? So I'm just one of those guys that believe I am not the fountainhead of all knowledge. So I pray and I think about what can we do, and I would suggest that you do that. And many of the things that we're suggesting here are very, very important. And to the degree you can get involved in any of those, it's going to help. It won't help by Wednesday, but it will help. And it'll get you where you need to go eventually.
Take one more time.
Yes?
I was thinking, instead of this trend here, instead of fighting against it, do you see any opportunities that we can take advantage of?
Of this offshoring? Yes, I really see the entrepreneurial spirit here, and the schooling on that, and the innovation, and that drive. A lot of that's going to depend on, can companies get off focusing too tight, which is important, but let some of those ideas flow, that this is going to be the fruitful land of innovation in high tech. And when you have that, there's great hope. Every time there is an idea like that, for example, small companies don't offshore mostly. You have to do it right here. It's when you get to a huge volume that you probably have to offshore on some things, but not all. And for me, the key that I've been driving in this state and on a national level is keep the engineering skills and brains and innovation here. They can do some Finnish engineering over there and maybe make it over there, but keep the secret sauce that is America right here.
Thank you very much for being here.